There we go. Great. So thanks so much for everybody to come in. It's brilliant to see you all. And we've got a lovely session planned with the lovely Helen Walsh, who's here. Give us a wave. There she is. Helen's also going to be one of the lead artists on our in-person workshop, which isn't that far away, actually, which is quite exciting. So it will be Helen and Jackie Zender, and we'll be at the Bridge in Dumfries on the 1st of June, and that's a 10 till 4 session. So where we met for the welcome session, basically. So so this is an introduction to Helen and her practice, and we're going to do a bit of making together. And this is sort of like a pre-workshop before we come together in person. So I just wanted to quickly check how everybody got on this week, and did you really enjoy the ink and mark making at home in your own time? Yeah, it's lovely work shared. It was really nice to learn about something new with the lamp black ink and everything. I thought that was a really lovely thing, and the reed pens and how they made them. So that was really nice. So keep sharing your images if you haven't already. Don't be shy. Just it's a lovely, safe, kind, caring space, and it's great to see because you always learn something from somebody else's ideas and other work. So feel free to keep sharing. And I think without further ado, I shall hand over to the lovely Helen so she can say hi and introduce herself to you.
Fantastic, thank you. So it's so lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us. And I know a couple of you know me already, but for those of you who don't, I'm Helen, and you might know me as Delicate Stitches. And the reason I'm Delicate Stitches is because when I went to register helenwalsh.co.uk as an artist page, turned out somebody had already got there, which was very inconvenient. So I had to come up with a different name, but I quite like it, and it's kind of grown with me over the past sort of 15 years or so. I'm really into birds, which you will gather as we go through the session. And one of my favourite things in the whole world is cutting and sticking. So I have spent a long time organising my career to spend as much time as possible cutting and sticking, and as much time as possible avoiding form filling or anything like that. So I consider myself the queen of cut and stick. I'm happy to have that crown challenged. I'm up for a cut and stick off at any point. So, feel free to throw down the gauntlet. But what I really want to say just before we get going is one of the really lovely things about this project is that it's to do with sketchbooks and journals. And they are such a lovely way of giving yourself a bit of time, a bit of space, an opportunity to be creative. And I really think that creativity is a really important thing. I think that everybody is creative, and a sketchbook is a really good place to kind of keep that or to experiment in. So what I would like you to do this evening is to approach the session with kind of curiosity and openness, and not be worried about what happens, but just to kind of go with the flow. Your sketchbook is just that. It's your sketchbook, it's your space. So what you do in that is entirely up to you. Try not to feel any kind of sense of what you should be doing. What you want to be doing following the session is what you should be doing. Does that sort of make sense to people? Excellent. So I think there is a little video that kind of gives you a bit of an introduction to my practice. So I thought what we'd do first is have a little watch of that. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes long. And that'll just give you a little bit of an idea about my work, so that when I start sending you off to forage for things, you'll have a bit of an idea where I'm coming from. Does that sound all right with everyone? Fabulous. Liz, are you happy to share the intro video, please? Hi, I'm Helen Walsh, also known as Delicate Stitches, and I'm an artist and creative practitioner based on the beautiful Solway Coast in southwest Scotland. I'm inspired by the natural world and our connection to it. In my work, I want to share some of the joy and wonder I find in the natural world, as well as encouraging people to think a bit more closely about our impact on the natural world. We're all part of it, not apart from it. My work always starts with drawing. I love drawing. I love the sensation of it. I love the movement, the way that I can just let my mind go. I find it's a really useful way of exploring ideas, of thinking about things, and also of letting go, of just relaxing. I really enjoy the process of drawing as well as the outcomes. Sometimes I create drawings just as things in themselves, but often I use them as a way of thinking around things. Almost all of my finished pieces will have started probably with scribbles, sometimes more finished drawings, but always with a line on a page. I like to draw feathers. I'm really interested in feathers as I like their duality. They look really fragile, but they're incredibly strong. They give birds the power of flight, something that we don't have, which again is something that I find really interesting. Being able to fly away, but fly away from what? If you're flying away, it suggests there's something to escape from, and I think that's quite interesting. Alongside drawing, walking is also a big part of my artistic practice, and like drawing, it's something that I try and do every day. While I'm out on my walks, I'm noticing the colours, the sounds, the shapes, the way the seasons change, and I'm also collecting things. I almost always come home with pockets full of feathers and stones and shells and all sorts of different things. As well as making their way into my daily drawing, these things sometimes make their way into my work, particularly what I call my feather banners. These are small textile pieces made from cloth that I've naturally dyed myself, along with some of these found objects, so some of the shells and feathers, and other objects such as gold foil, beads, buttons, that kind of thing. They're all brought together with hand embroidery. Like the drawing, this is a really mindful process. And for me, these banners explore a time and a place. And again, they're looking at this connection with the natural world and our place within it. I really love working on these pieces. It's slow work because it's hand embroidery, but I feel it really helps me connect with the ideas that I'm trying to explore and get across. I'm probably best known for my bird portraits, mostly done in textiles. I love birds and have done since I was very young. I'm really inspired by them. Their colours, patterns, the way they move, their ability to fly. Like many cultures before me, I see them as almost like a gateway, a means of escape, a way of looking at another world, exploring what might be beyond, as well as just being beautiful creatures in themselves. I use a mixture of hand and machine embroidery, and I also dye a lot of fabrics that I use myself. Increasingly, I've got more and more interested in natural dyeing, and again, this ties in with my interest in and connection to nature and the land. I really like using naturally dyed fabrics because it means that the colour on the cloth literally comes from where the birds come from. All of my birds are birds that I've seen and observed myself. So again, the process starts with observation and drawing. Often these drawings are just quick scribbles in a sketchbook because birds move quite quickly. I then use photographs, reference books to build up a more detailed image, which I can then translate into fabric and cloth. I want to try and capture the character of the birds. I want them to look realistic, but I'm not interested in them being completely accurate. It's more about the spirit of them. And again, I want to inspire that feeling of wonder and joy that I experience when I see birds. I want people to be able to connect with them. One of the reasons for using textiles is I think it really helps with this connection. We all have a tactile familiarity with cloth. So when you see something in textiles, there's already something about it that you can connect to. It's very difficult not to touch a textile artwork. There's something very appealing about them. And often I like my work to be touched. I like to use very tactile fabrics like velvets. and see-through fabrics like organza to layer up. Like many creative people, I really enjoy experimenting with a range of different styles and techniques. Recently, I've got really into printmaking, and I'm really enjoying trying different techniques and ideas. I particularly like dry point, as it's very like drawing, and collage, as it's very similar to the way I work with textiles, putting different textures and surfaces together and using that to create an image. I hope you've enjoyed this whistle-stop tour of my practice, and I look forward to hearing and answering any questions you may have. So there we go. That's what I do. It's really, really weird listening to your voice and watching things that you've made on a screen. It's a little bit kind of squirmy, but it's also quite interesting. And one of the things that's really interesting is that video was made a little while ago, not a long time ago, but a little while ago. And it's interesting watching it back and just thinking about kind of what's changed just in the past few months. Not a huge amount, but it is a good opportunity to reflect on things. And again, sketchbooks are really, really good for that. They give you something to look back through. Every now and then, it's really good to pull one of your old sketchbooks out if you get into a regular practice and just flick through. One of the things that I find fascinating is that I often have these things that I think are new ideas, but I'll go back through my sketchbooks and I was like, oh, would you look at that? 3 years ago, I was thinking about that. I just haven't done anything with it. But it gives you a nice prompt to kind of carry on with it. So if you can get into a regular habit, and that doesn't have to be every day, but if you can get into the habit of using your sketchbooks, they form a really nice resource that you can go back to again and again and again. And you don't have to share them with anyone. You can just keep them for yourself. That's also fine. Excellent. So what I thought we'd do next is I'm going to very quickly go through the materials and what we're going to be doing this evening. And then if we need a couple of minutes to go and grab things, we can do that. Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Brill. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm not actually going to share my screen. I'm going to share my desk. So hopefully you can see where I'm working this evening. And we'll just very quickly go through what we're going to need. So you're going to want some drawing materials. And I know you've been doing some lovely drawing practices, the continuous line drawing, your mark making. So feel free to use the things that you've already done. Again, with a sketchbook practice, it's something you can build on. I don't expect you to forget everything you've done and do just tonight's session. Use what you already know. Use what you're happy with. It's all a process. It's called a practice for a reason. We have to keep going at it to get better. So I've got a pencil, which I won't use. I've got a couple of acrylic markers. My favourite rollable kind of ink pen and a white gel pen. I found these acrylic markers, and I think you might have acrylic markers possibly in the box this year. I found these recently and they're really, really fun. I really like things that you can't rub out because it kind of means you're committed. That's why I won't be using the pencil. Who wants that? But if you want to use a pencil, you absolutely can. If you want to use your lovely dip pens and ink, you can. If you want to use your charcoal, you can. Go for what you're comfortable with. That's what I'm going to be working with. You'll also want a glue stick. And I've got a random selection of papers. These were just bits that were lying around on my desk. So there's nothing particularly fancy. I've got some nice wrapping paper, but it's shiny. Again, those of you who've been on workshops with me before will know that genetically, I am about 87% magpie. So just beware of your shiny materials. I have a tendency to go for them. I've got some prints that didn't work out very well, but they've got some nice colours in, so I might rip that up. Photocopy of a drawing. bits that I've obviously already ripped things out from, music scores, wallpaper, printed tracing paper, tissue paper, dressmaking paper, and one of my all-time favourites, brown packaging paper. If anybody uses a multinational company with questionable ethics, you will find that all of their packaging has been changed over to brown paper, which is absolutely brilliant. It's so useful for all sorts of things. So that's kind of where we're at. And of course, you're going to need your sketchbook. Or if you prefer to work on sheets of paper and then stick them into your sketchbook, that's fine. It's very exciting this evening because it's new sketchbook day. I finished a sketchbook this morning. So before I went to work this morning, I made myself a new sketchbook. And I like to make my own sketchbooks because I like to have a range of different papers. See, the camera's really struggling to focus on the sketchbook. Once we get things on the pages, it will be okay. So I've got tracing paper, brown paper, cartridge paper, all sorts in there. So as I say, it's very exciting because it's new sketchbook day. Also going to want an image to work from. I'm using the RSPB, Complete Book of British Birds. Very exciting, but any reference material will work. You don't have to do birds. Birds, as you will have gathered from the video, are my thing, so that's what I'm focusing on. But if you really don't want to do birds, that's fine. If you want to use something else, that's okay. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment because I can only see a small portion of you when I'm sharing. Does anybody need a couple of minutes to go and grab materials? Or is everyone okay?
Give us a thumbs up if everybody's okay. I think everyone's okay.
Wow,
and we'll just have to guess with the ones with the cameras off. Oh, yes. Oh, well done, guys. Thank you for
the little
iconing.
emoji thumb up is
well
great.
Done. Well done.
Brilliant. Excellent. In which case, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen so that you can see what I'm doing. And what we're going to do this evening is we're going to have a go at a bit of ripping and sticking rather than cutting and sticking. You'll have noticed the absence of scissors. Bit of continuous line drawing and a bit of kind of whatever we feel like drawing. So I'm going to show you a couple of pages from some of my other sketchbooks. So these are some of my drawings of birds in the garden. Now, as you can see, they are very, very quick. So when we start off, this is the kind of thing that we're going to have a go at first. We're really not worried about making beautiful drawings of birds. We're going for essence of bird. We really are just trying to capture some of those key shapes. So that's the kind of thing we're going to start off with, and we're going to combine it with a bit of collage, kind of leading up to this kind of thing. So these are actually the pages from last year's art journal collage pages, which I thought was nice. So this is what we did last year. So I thought it'd be a nice little recap to have a look at those. But what we're going to start with is a bit of random collage. So one of the things that can be quite overwhelming, particularly when you open your new sketchbook, is when you're faced with that blank page and you have to put a drawing on it, it can be quite overwhelming. It's a bit like going back to school, isn't it, and having a fresh exercise book and being really worried about making a mess on it. So the point of this exercise is just to help you let go of that worry, to be nice and relaxed, nice and chilled, and hopefully to have fun. One of the things that I always say about all workshops, not just ones that I run, is that it's really good to give things a go. Even if it's something you're not comfortable with, try it and see. Because if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. But you never know if you don't like it until you try it. Some things you think you're going to hate, you might end up really, really enjoying. So to get rid of the fear of the blank page, what we're going to do to start with is pick a piece of your collage paper and tear a shape. Literally any shape at all, really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to do a very quick demo and then I'm going to get you guys to get stuck in, but if you want to play along as I'm doing it as well, that's fine. So I have just taken a piece of this paper, I've put some glue on and I'm going to whack it here because that looks like a good spot. And so now I no longer have a blank page, and that feels quite good. So the noise you can hear is I'm just shaking up my acrylic marker pen. But I've got jingly bracelets on as well, so hopefully it's a musical experience for you all. So whilst that's just having a second to stick down, the reason I prefer to use glue stick rather than PVA is that you can draw straight away with a glue stick. If you use PVA glue or something like that, then you'll need to wait for your bit of paper to dry first, otherwise you'll end up in a sticky mess, which, to be honest, I quite often end up in anyway, but I like to try. So once you've got a bit of paper onto your page, what we're going to do is we're going to do a continuous line drawing. So thinking back to your, I think it was your first session when you did continuous line, it is literally just a line that stays on the page. It can go forwards, backwards, sideways, up, down, any direction you want. And I'm going to use this bit of paper as a bit of a guide, and I'm going to pop a wagtail on because I'm looking at wagtails. And I am literally going to do a very, very quick drawing. I am not worried about the accuracy of this drawing. I am not worried about getting everything in exactly the right place. I just want to try and get a bit of a feel for this bird, get it onto my page. Say, really not worrying about getting everything in exactly the right place. I've run out of room for his tail, but that's okay. There we go. We are looking at that kind of speed. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few minutes just to grab a bit of paper, stick it on a page, and use that as a starting point for a drawing. Try and go as quickly as you can with this. See if you can get a few drawings on one page, or you can use multiple pages, whatever feels comfortable. And try not to overthink it. Try and just go with the flow. We're really not worrying about it looking like a particular thing. We're just trying to loosen ourselves up and get into the zone. Everybody happy with that? Brilliant. Do feel free to holler if you have any questions, or drop things in the chat if that's easier. Liz and I will keep an eye on that. So if there's something you're not sure about, don't sit there and fret. Ask us about it. So now the only thing when I'm sharing my screen is I can't see time. So I'm just going to get a timekeeping device. There we go. Okay, brill. So I'm going to give you about 3 or 4 minutes on this, and this is just to get you warmed up, just to get you thinking about things. It's not necessarily even thinking, it's kind of tactile thinking, I suppose you could call it, really. Thinking with your hands.
Oh, it's the tails that are menace, aren't it?
I have
mine's gone on to the second page
with scale.
Yeah, me too.
In that I am completely unable to fit any kind of drawing on a page. Even if I start with a really big bit of paper, it doesn't matter. The drawing just gets bigger. So if you go through any of my sketchbooks, there we go. First page of this sketchbook, quick sketch of a magpie. Obviously couldn't fit the magpie on, so I had to add another bit of paper. And again, it's your sketchbook. You can do that.
I love
Just
the
add a bit on.
little
It's fine.
extension on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's cute. That
It's
is
great.
cute.
It's your sketchbook. You can do what you like. In fact, I've got a nice little bit of paper that's just going to be just the right length for the tail.
Perfect.
So I'm going to just add that on.
Yeah.
Because I can do that. There we go. I was saying earlier about it being kind of your new exercise book and trying to keep it clean. I always begin my sketchbooks with the intention of keeping things on one page. Clearly, page 1, that's worked well for me.
I think that's broken it in really well, to be honest with you.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, there's nothing to worry about now. But page 1, I've already gone off the page, so it's all good.
Yeah. So do you work in all sizes of books then?
I do, yeah. So as I mentioned, I like to make my own sketchbooks because I like drawing on different papers. And so I make them in a range of sizes. I tend to make these A4-ish ones as my kind of everyday sketchbooks. Right. So these tend to live on my desk and go round about the house with me. But I also make smaller ones. So A6, A5, even tinier ones sometimes, because I always like to have something with me. I'm just wondering if I've got any. I did have a bit of a tidy up the other day, so there we go. So
is this unusual for you to be sat drawing at a desk?
No, not really. I do a combination. So I try and draw every day, and that will often be at the desk, but I do also try and always have a sketchbook with me. So I'll draw pretty much anywhere, to be honest. I always have a sketchbook when I go out walking. So if it's not absolutely tipping it down, I'll try and get a couple of quick sketches in as I'm walking. And this is just an example of a little one, and this is another desk one. But this is all black paper. Because one of the things I want to share with you later is drawing with different colours. So this is just black paper and tracing paper. And so it's looking at drawing with different materials on different papers. And gold, again, with the magpie.
Love the gold.
And this one has pockets.
Marvellous.
Because everything is better with pockets.
So good. So it's interesting how paper and textile and fabric sort of can cross over between each other, can't they? I mean, it's
very much so. I tend to kind of use them almost interchangeably in some things. As I say, I always start with drawing. So most work starts on paper, but you can collage with paper and you can collage with fabric. You can combine them in different ways. So this is the sketchbook that I made this morning. And what I've got is I've got some pages that fold out in an attempt to curb my inability to stay on one page. It won't work. But it's a nice thought. I've got pages that have got I sewed this one in upside down by accident, but it'll still work. Kind of got different layers in. So it's really nice. And you can do this with an existing sketchbook. So if you've bought a sketchbook, you can still alter the pages. They don't have to stay exactly as they are.
Yeah, you can customize.
Yeah, absolutely. Add extensions, all that kind of thing. So let's just have a quick look. That's 5 minutes. So I'm going to just stop sharing just so I can see you all a bit better. it would be really, really lovely if anyone would like to share how they got on with that. And it doesn't have to be that you liked it. It can be that it was really unpleasant. It's also good to share those experiences. You don't have to like everything. It's good to really think about why you didn't like something if you didn't, and vice versa. If you did like something, it's good to think about that. Is anybody happy just to kind of share a couple of thoughts? Liz, fantastic. Beautiful.
Is it a
So
goose?
it's really lovely.
What kind of bird is it, Liz?
Swan, I think.
Oh, a swan, sorry.
I think.
Yes, it is. It's a goose from a book.
Ah,
Very
a book
lovely.
goose. And
Thank
Jenny,
you.
got Jenny there.
Oh, yeah, that flash of green is brilliant.
Oh,
Now, Jenny, out of interest, did the green make you do Kingfisher, or were you already going to do a Kingfisher?
Well, it was a green that got, yeah, it was a green that made me go for the Kingfisher.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. And that's another reason that the collage is good. Sometimes it can suggest something to you. If you've got that blank page.
I don't quite like this one, but I'm a bit disappointed in that.
oh no, I like him.
But,
yeah, I like them both.
I'll do another one up here.
I like
Fantastic.
in the second one.
I'm not a fan of birds.
Oh,
So
Mushrooms. Hooray.
yay!
Yeah. Excellent.
Love it.
um,
Great lines.
Oh, Lorraine, that's lovely. I love his legs.
Oh, is that cardboard?
They're
Really
great.
texture. Love it. Love it. Love it.
But I didn't
Yeah,
have the paper,
beautiful.
so
There we go.
I
Oh,
just
Jill,
had
you've got
fun
some
with them
lovely
all.
marks in that one.
Oops.
Very
Because
Bobby
of the
Beach.
blurring. There we go.
Yeah, meant to be.
I had some old dried out markers that I thought would add some fun texture.
Oh,
Nice. He's got real
thank you,
character.
Lovely, Phil.
Inez, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, that's it.
That's beautiful.
I love that one.
It's great, isn't it?
Great.
What I think is wonderful is just how those little flashes of colour, those little random shapes, and you put the telegraph wire in or fence wire, and you've just created that scene just with a few bits of torn paper in less than 5 minutes. I think that's lovely. Nicola, can you hold yours up again? Sorry, I didn't get a proper look.
Oh,
Oh,
lovely.
beautiful. Excellent. And I'm very pleased to see lots of brown paper involved. Well done, everyone. Excellent. That's grand. Oh, Trina, that's good. I like those. I really love that bold line. Have you used a marker pen for those drawings? Or you're on mute, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I think there must be. They're in Japanese. I was surprised when I took the lid off. It didn't have the tip that I was expecting, so never mind.
Oh, I like
that's
that.
good.
Where it's
Always good to challenge.
yeah,
But it's beautiful. The
been
marks,
decided.
yeah, the lines
Can
have
you
got a
tell
beautiful.
what birds they are? No, come on. See, silence.
They're like the bold
Yeah,
mark.
what is it?
Don't
Is it
look anything like the
chaffinch?
picture.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
magpie.
Finch is looking at the beaks.
Yeah. Is it?
No, it's a magpie.
Ah, the tail. It's got a tail.
Yeah.
Crumbs.
Sorry, Karen was holding hers up a moment ago, but I don't think anyone saw them. Oh, I really like the
Great.
splash of
Yeah.
colour there, Karen.
Green woodpecker.
Yeah, if you want. There was this one who's just sort of, I made her up as I
Brilliant.
went along. She's a little.
Love that.
She's a funky chicken.
I think my reference was a weird. This was sort of my reference that I found.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, flamingo.
It's
Brilliant.
a flamingo with sort of, it's a mixed up animal bird.
Yeah.
Marvellous.
Always good.
So I just thought, oh, I can do whatever I like.
Absolutely. And that is exactly the right approach. It really doesn't matter whether they look like your reference material or not. Your reference material is a starting point. It's literally just something to get you going. It's just to give you a starting point. We're not aiming to make bird portraits and stuff. The point of this session is to get you loosened up, to get you working, to get you thinking, to get you enjoying using those materials and find the techniques that work for you. And for some people, working completely from their imagination is what works. You might find that you actually don't want reference material, that that's a hindrance. That's fine. Most of us like to have something to start from, but if you don't, that's also fine. So I think that's a really, really strong start, guys. Really good. So what I would like us to do next is kind of develop that a bit more and think about how we can kind of take that basic process. I'm just going to share my screen again, so I want to show you kind of what we're going for. So again, this is another drawing from a sketchbook, just a bit of paper to get away from that blank page, and a bit of willow pattern china that I found on the beach, but that wasn't what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you was what we're going to have a go at next is a similar thing, but spending a bit more time. So again, I'm using birds, but if you don't want to use birds, that's fine. We're going to start by collaging a background, so maybe tearing some bigger strips. Some of you have already started doing this in your quick sketches, so you'll be well ahead of the game. That's grand. And you can tear to make kind of a specific background, so to make foliage or rocks or whatever, or you can just tear sections just to give yourself a bit of a base. And then I'm going to give you a couple of different tips for ripping paper, because with a bit of practice, you can get slightly more accurate shapes. So we'll collage a background, build up a bird with a bit of collage, and then work up the details with a bit of drawing. Does that sound like a good plan to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple of ripping techniques which might be useful for you as you go. So Liz, you were talking before about the similarities between textiles and paper. Mm-hmm. One of the similarities is that most paper, most commercial paper that you buy also has a grain. So textiles, for anyone who's used textiles, have a warp and a weft thread, so you can tear them along their threads. Paper, you will find, will tear really easily one way. You'll get a nice straight line. But if you try and tear it the other way, not so much. So if you're trying to tear straight lines, the first thing to do is discover the grain of your paper. And if you're trying to tear curved lines, it's best to work against the grain. You're never going to get really, really accurate shapes doing this. This isn't like using scissors. And that's one of the things that I like about this. I like the rough edges. I like the fact that it's a suggestion of a shape, but you can, with practice, get more used to tearing shapes. So to give yourself a bit more control, if you work between your first fingers and your thumbs and kind of just work slowly along the line that you want to tear, you can tear fairly accurate shapes. And this is really good if you want to do things kind of like bellies of birds. So you can start tearing shapes like that. The other thing that you can do is you can add bits on. So if you wanted actually that to be a thicker shape, you could tear another section and just lay it on top. Have a think about your edges. You can see where I've torn this. There's a lovely kind of dual texture on this bit. And that's something, again, that's really nice to incorporate into your drawings. It's another way of adding another layer of interest, more texture into your drawings. What else can I tell you about tearing paper? It's just really fun. It's just a really nice way of working. Tissue paper is really lovely to work with as well. I know you've got some in your packs. Again, you'll find it has a grain, so it'll tear really easily one way and not the other. But you can layer it up so you can get different levels of transparency. So if you want a really bold colour, you can layer it. So if we put that down, we get a pale yellow. If we add another layer, we start getting a much darker layer, a much darker yellow. And obviously you can build that up in gradation so that you can get contrast of colours. And again, you get these lovely soft edges. So it's another really nice way of adding texture. You can scrumple it up so that you've got, and either use it like that for added texture or then flatten it out again. And you'll have all these lovely textures to work with. It really is just about playing. Really, just grab whatever you've got on your desk. Don't think, oh, I need such and such. Work with what you've got and just have a play. Just enjoy yourself. Does anybody have any questions before kind of we get going on this? I can see that some of you are stuck in already, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm just going to stop sharing just for a second, just so I can see if anyone wants to wave at me and ask questions, or whether you're all happy to get on with your sticking. Excellent. I'll share my screen again so that you can see what I'm doing at the same time, but do feel free to jump in there with questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions, weather reports, whatever you like. What I should warn you about is that you will start looking at envelopes and packaging in a slightly different way if you get into this. You'll start kind of thinking, oh, well, I can't possibly throw that wrapper away because it would be just perfect for such and such.
I've got at home in my shed, I've got boxes and boxes like this, just with bits of paper in, like tons of them. Magazines. I like magazines actually.
Yeah, magazines are great.
Yeah, all sorts of corporate packaging as referenced. I've even got this map. I feel a bit bad about this because it's quite nice, but yeah, it's a lovely yellow. So yeah.
I really like collaging with maps.
Yeah, I feel a bit. Oh, I've also got a book, and I feel it's a bit sacrilegious, a bit, isn't it? You know, but it was a terrible book, and the spine had broken. So yeah, there we go. It was really boring.
It's an interesting one with books. I was talking about this with a group that I was doing a workshop with yesterday, and we were talking about textiles actually, and kind of, is it sacrilegious to cut things up or to leave them in the light where they get faded? And my feeling is that these things were created to be enjoyed, and actually, if you keep things locked away in a safe place with the best intentions, you don't get them out and you don't enjoy them, and they just sit there mouldering, doing nothing. I think it's better to get the things out, enjoy them, risk spilling things on them, but enjoy using them in the process. I think things are there to be enjoyed.
Yes. Wise words.
I actually bought a book. It was about Orkney and all the wildlife, and I bought it to use as a sketch pad because I thought it would be really lovely to have these words in the background. But then I started reading and I couldn't bear. But I still might, but it might take me a year or two to let go.
Well, you'll get double the enjoyment from it, won't you? Because you'll have the joy of reading it, and then you'll have the joy of making something from it.
Absolutely.
There's quite, actually, I don't know if folks use Instagram much, but there's quite a community of people who alter books quite a lot, and it's different ends of the spectrum. People are doing these really intricate, like sort of cutouts with books and making little worlds within the books, but you know, also just using them, like you said, like journals and stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, laying down tons of paint and texture and stitching in and all sorts of stuff. And it's I mean, I often need ways of getting into my work and stuff, and you can kind of get to the page and freeze, can't you? So it just, I'm better when I've got boundaries to react against. Either you completely ignore the instructions and do something completely different and do the opposite, or it can just help to set you off a wee bit.
Yeah. And as I say, sketchbooks are such a nice place to experiment.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't matter. If you really, 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 really hate something that you've done in your sketchbook, you can just stick something over the top.
Mm.
I would encourage you not to. I would encourage you to leave it there and try and think about why you don't like it and to use it as an opportunity to kind of do something different. But your sketchbook is your space. It's up to you what you do with it. There are no sketchbook police who are going to come round and go, oh, you can't do that. That's not on.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely your space. Now, for my bird, I'm kind of going with semi-continuous line because that's how I like to draw, but definitely use this as an opportunity to kind of use some of the techniques you've been learning on this project. So if you think you really want to go in with the ink and the dip pens and do a big splishy splashy drawing, go for it. If you want to do something a bit more measured, if you want to take a bit more time and go in with a bit more detail, that's also fine. Because as I say, sketchbooks really are a place to experiment and try things. It really doesn't matter how it actually works out, so long as you've enjoyed the process or even just learned something from the process. You don't always have to enjoy it. It's always a bonus if you do.
But you don't have to worry about what somebody else is doing as well. You know, you don't, if you really like what somebody else has done and you think, and it makes you feel like, oh, I want to have a go at that, then great. But yeah, don't fret about what somebody else is doing. Just do the things that you fancy trying as well.
Absolutely. Drawing is a very personal thing. And sketchbooks can be, you know, really, really very personal.
I think that's what's good about people posting their work up, because it gives you sort of inspiration and ideas for something that you can try.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, I've forgotten to put some background down, like a twerp. Right, okay.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to.
Envelope time, I think.
I'm a big fan, as you know, of the envelope background. The other thing I would say about this process is spend as long as you want on each drawing. I tend to work very, very quickly. So I don't tend to spend a huge amount of time on each drawing. But if you want to spend a lot of time, that's absolutely fine. If you have reached a point with your drawing that you're happy with it, or you feel like you've done what you set out, just start another page. You can just keep going. Whether you do 1 bird or 15 really doesn't matter. Go with what's working for you. One of the things that I found is that drawing is very much my happy place. Cutting and sticking and drawing. Kind of that's where I feel really comfortable. I can kind of sort of let go of things a bit and just relax into what I'm doing and just really enjoy process. I really enjoy the act of drawing. I like everything about it. I like the feel of it. I like the sounds. It can be a whole experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's something to be said about drawing, and I think there's somebody I recently started following on Instagram who is I think they've got quite a spiritual like sort of practice as well. I think they said something like they're a theologist or something as well, and they see like their drawing practice is a bit like a meditation, a prayer. It's something really meaningful to them.
Absolutely.
On each one of the time they come to their sketchbook pages, they work a lot in sketchbooks and then do larger pieces, much larger pieces. But it's pure like sort of mark making and shapes and pattern and stuff like that. And they see it as a, you know, as part of this other part of their life. You know, it's very much part of it.
Yeah. No, I can really relate to that and say I try and draw every day, partly because I like drawing and partly because the only way to get really good at something is to do it a lot.
Yeah.
But also it's my time when I'm drawing. What I'm thinking about is drawing. I'm not thinking about all the other things I've got to get done. I'm not thinking about what's on my to-do list. I'm thinking about my drawing. I'm in that moment, and that I find a really helpful thing and something kind of really valuable in that. It's time that I look forward to.
Yeah, I think it's that making it a very personal thing to you is really important. I think initially it can start with drawing as a kind of like, right, okay, this is like learning my scales. This is like, you know, practicing anything, you need to do the basics, don't you, sort of thing. But eventually, I think when you get the confidence and it moves into something else.
Definitely. And one of the things that, you know, I really can't stress enough is just try things. And sketchbooks are just such a good place for doing that. You know, try the different pens, try the different techniques, try drawing with your non-dominant hand, try all these things and notice how it feels. I think I don't know whether you find this, Liz, because obviously I know you draw a lot as well. It can be really easy to get stuck in a rut. So one of the things that I try and do is, if I'm in a bit of a rut, if I'm a bit stuck, is to pick up a material or a tool that I don't normally use and kind of challenge myself to draw something with that, or to pick something that I don't normally draw, or to choose a technique. So I almost always use continuous line. So if I'm a bit stuck, I think, right, I'm not going to draw with continuous line today. I'm going to try something different and just try and break out of, let's say, any kind of rut or anything that you've got a bit stuck in, because we all do.
Oh, that's why I really love doing art journal, because, you know, it helps. I always try and join in with the workshops because it's really good for me, you know.
Absolutely.
I forget, you know, I love collaging stuff. I love it. If I get stuck with landscape, I always get the paper out.
Yeah. One of the things I particularly love about torn paper collage is that because you're tearing it, again, it kind of takes away a little bit of that anxiety about getting it right, because you're never going to get a really exact shape. And you know that from the start, so you can just kind of embrace that. Now, I've started off with a really organised space, but within however long we've been working, I've managed to cover the entire area around me in things and stuff. It's a special gift. So I'm just doing a quick kind of check-in. We are on 7:30, so we've still got plenty of time, but it is racing away with us. So what I think we'll do, if it's okay with everyone, is we'll keep going with this for a little bit longer. I'm just checking my plan in case I've forgotten anything really important. But we've got another video that we could share with you, and I'd really like us again just to sort of have a bit of a chat about how we found this. So if we keep going for maybe another 10 minutes or so, and that'll give us plenty of time to have a little look. Does that sound all right to everyone?
Yep. That's fine.
Brill. Liz, can you remember how long the studio tour video is?
Right, I'll have a little look.
Or can you have a quick look
I'll
for
have
me?
a wee look.
Thank you. Don't think it's a very long one.
Right, if I can just find the mouse, which is buried under a pile of collage materials now.
As I say, within kind of half an hour, I've managed to cover every
Bomb's
available
gone
surface.
off. Yeah. Where are we? So your studio tour is 8 minutes.
Excellent. That's good. I mean, we don't have to do that if we're all having a lovely time. It can just go in the Facebook group. We'll see how we get on. One of the things that's really nice to do as well, particularly when you've collaged a few materials, is if you've got a white pen or a different coloured pen, have a go with drawing with that. We're very, very used to always drawing with a black line on a white page. So it's quite good, if you can, to shake that up and try drawing with a different colour. It takes your brain a little bit of time sometimes to adjust to that. But to be honest, it takes my brain quite a long time to adjust to most things. So I just go with that.
I think the other thing as well is just keeping that spirit of doing lots. If you're not happy with something or you want to try something else, turn the page and do a new one.
Absolutely.
Because you will learn something from each drawing or figure out the process. So I forgot to put a
Absolutely.
background in, so I'm going to have to turn the page and then do another one with the background put in place this time.
And again, you know, it's thinking about that is, you know, did I not put a background in because actually I didn't want a background, or because I was busy thinking about cheesecake? And either of which is fine. But it's just thinking about why you're doing things. Again, not kind of in a big existential kind of way, but in a being aware. And it comes back to that kind of, again, all that almost that meditation quality of drawing, that being in the moment, thinking about why you're doing what you're doing.
I think it's the layering with tissue papers. I love how you can start to get textures and shadows and tones of things.
Very much so.
I'm going to have to get going because I need to get my daughter. So I've had a lot of fun.
Good to see you, Phil.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Lots of therapy I needed tonight, I think.
Oh, great.
Good.
Stick them in the Facebook group, won't you?
Yeah, lovely textures in that.
Thanks very much, Helen.
Thanks for joining us, Phil. Good to see you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Phil.
Give him a wave.
I think actually sort of possibly unintentionally, Phil's made a really good point there, kind of the therapy that you need. If you are feeling sort of a bit, things are a bit much, and, you know, that can happen quite a lot. I find that drawing is a really good way of just giving myself a little bit of time, again, just to kind of focus on something different. And it doesn't matter if I don't make a great drawing, it's just the process. Just doing it is often really helpful.
Yeah.
I must admit, I've sort of went off script a bit, but
Excellent.
I do a lot of card making.
Yeah.
Every time I make cards, I always keep the scraps.
Yeah.
So far, I don't know if you can see it.
They're great.
Just sort of taking it from a different angle completely.
Yeah.
Love it.
So something I would normally throw or just put in the tray out of the way, I've just sort of turned totally on its head.
No, that's brilliant.
Andrea.
And actually, whilst it's not exactly what we set out to do, it's very much in the spirit of this evening, which is to look at things in a different way and approach things. So using those scraps, using those as your inspiration is brilliant. I think that's a really effective way of working. And again, a really personal thing. And it is, as I keep saying, it's your sketchbook to do what works for you. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think also like it can be like with the materials that you choose as well, can't it? There can be like significance in that. So just like thinking, like if you're making cards for people or something like that, and you've made them for, a specific occasion or something like that, something, there's a sentiment attached, or using a old love letter, or not. Do we get love letters anymore? I don't know if that's a thing.
Love emails.
But like postcards or unpaid bill, or just there's like stories in bits of paper as well, isn't there?
Well, I tend to work on, I do decoupage, I make cards, and I also do personalised frames for people.
Oh, right.
So sort of wedding frames, that sort of thing.
So stuff that's going to be really significant for people, isn't it, that?
Yeah. But again, I suppose it's just how you actually view the material you're using.
Yeah. And being open to the possibility. So, you know, like you've done with those scraps, letting it almost kind of tell you what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I found kind of the drawings I've done this way that I've been most happy with aren't necessarily the ones that I've set out to make. It's normally kind of changed somewhere along the line. I might have set out to do one thing, but the materials have suggested something else. And if you can sort of go with the flow.
Yeah.
I don't normally worry about colour being accurate or anything like this, but there's something in paper I like trying to find, you know, with doing these bird drawings, I try and find similar colours and like layer them up. It's quite a funny thing. I normally really, in my painting and stuff, I never worry about it ever. It's just
it's
an
really
interesting thing.
interesting.
I like see if I can get close to it somehow by
Yeah.
layering the. It's funny.
It is. It's interesting how different techniques make you behave in different ways.
Yeah.
So we'll just have a sort of couple more minutes on this. Don't worry if you don't get your drawing finished. But say it would be really nice just to have a little look and a little chat about how we've got on. I'm doing grey wagtails this evening because there's where I live. We've got a little burn just outside the house, and there are grey wagtails nesting. And this evening I saw the first fledglings. So that was very exciting.
Weirdly, I'm on the same page, Helen, and that wasn't copying, I swear.
Wow, great minds, you see, great minds.
We've got some that are under the bridge.
Yeah.
Just
There's
down the
kind
way.
of sort of a stone wall that the burn flows through, and they nest in the gaps where the ferns grow through.
Such sweet little birds. We had they were digging up the river for some reason. I think it was as a flood defense thing. And the only downside to that is that it's a nesting site for all sorts, not just the wagtails, but there's like Arctic oyster catchers that come back every year. You know, there's all the little wadey things, little sandpipery type birdies, and sort of really quite sad about not seeing them.
Yeah, it's kind of sort of one of the things as well with daily drawing, because I like to draw from life, and I like to go for a walk every day. It kind of gets you more in tune with the seasons. So you do notice things, and then by the same token you notice when they're not there.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to pay attention to, actually.
Yeah,
it's like with it, and it sort of flows off the back of like Lucy Lee's and her partner Ed, and making their art materials from, you know, foraged plants and stones and whatnot, because it really just, you know, attaches you to the place.
Absolutely.
And a different layer of understanding.
No, very definitely.
We're really lucky here.
Do have to keep checking the time, because I am just so happy cutting and sticking. I'd just stay here all night. Right. I think we're on 1:45, so I think
Right.
that's probably a good point for us to pause. I mean, feel free to obviously carry on while we're having a little discussion and look. So just before I stop sharing my camera, I'm going to show you the ones that I've been working on. So again, with the love of showing these, I don't know if you can see, but this grey tissue is actually wrapping paper. It's metallic. So obviously a grey wagtail isn't actually silver, but I really like using those metallic papers and things because, again, it gives that sense of things being precious, that kind of importance. So I like to add those in. And so I've just collaged down bits of fabric. Like Liz was saying, you can layer up the tissue paper to get different tones. So this is all the same colour, just built up. And then I've used different pens over the top. And then I've done his partner down here. And she was shouting very loudly as I was looking at the young fledgling over the bridge. So I put her on the musical paper so she could carry on shouting.
Oh.
That's what I've been working on this evening. So I'm going to stop sharing there because, again, I'd really love to see how you've got on and hear how you've got on the bits that you enjoyed, any bits that you found a bit more challenging or any surprises. Sometimes you can kind of get into a bit of a think, oh, I'm not going to like that because I don't like this, and then find that you do. So like Andrew was saying about using the scraps, something that she'd normally just kind of file away, she's been able to use as a starting point, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm not actually finished, but that's as far as I've got. I
He's
need
lovely.
Thank you. I need a new Pritt stick. I had to use PVA, so my pencils ripped the tissue. But
added extra texture.
Yeah. I'll go back once it's dry and work away with it.
Brilliant.
Oh, he's gorgeous.
He's lovely. He's got great character. Elaine, I think you had a little chaffinch there.
Yes, I'm glad you got that's what it is.
Yeah, he's got lovely blue.
Where is it? There he is. There he is.
Oh, I love the coloured background. Just having those kind of different colours has made such a difference, hasn't it?
Yeah, this is the second time I've done this session because I was in last year's group.
Yeah.
And I found it really, really difficult last year, I have to be honest. It's totally out of my comfort zone. But I think actually it's been maybe a little bit more successful this time. So
good.
This shows
Yours
you.
were very successful last year, Elaine. I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's I think what's really nice about it is you feel more comfortable with it. You've kind of been able to break through the pain barrier.
Yeah.
Excellent. Leslie, can we have a little look at yours? I just saw you kind of holding it up briefly. It was looking really good. Yeah. You've got some gorgeous marks there.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Beautiful. Really lovely. They've got a bit of a kind of dreamy quality, actually, haven't they, those ones? It's kind of something quite restful and slightly otherworldly. I like that.
I kind of got involved in doing my background more than my foreground, to be honest.
I'm in the same place as you, actually.
That's
my bird's fairly Bobby basic, but that was because I was thinking I was going to run out of time. But I really enjoyed doing that. It was good fun.
Good. No, it's lovely. It's come together beautifully.
Lovely yellow.
Yeah, really bold. Oh, Nicola, I'm enjoying the flamingo.
I was going to say, just from something really restful and peaceful to something that's going to keep you up all night.
Yeah, party bird.
That's great. I love the tracing paper as well. You kind of subtle flamingo, full on flamingo.
I thought that would maybe just sort of dampen it down a bit, just in case it was a bit too full on.
Oh no, I like it. That's beautiful. Oh, Inez, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's got a lovely kind of Japanese feel where you've got that block of colour in.
Yeah, I really like collage. I really do.
No, it's lovely. Really effective. Oh, Trina, what have we got?
Oh,
beautiful.
yay.
The
I was
marks
hoping
in
somebody
that,
would do
that's
it.
gorgeous.
I enjoyed doing that one.
Well done.
I could have got carried away on the background, but instead I got carried away putting all the eyes on the feathers.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
great.
And actually, it works really nicely with kind of the roughness of the torn paper, and then where you've obviously spent quite a lot of time getting the eyes in, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's really effective. That's a really nice contrast. No, they're
I
looking
enjoyed
really
it.
good.
Thank you.
Who have we got? We'll go Karen.
Karen.
Oh,
he's on pistons.
The collage
Brilliant.
materials that I had is sort of, I had a vintage gun magazine that I'd used recently to decoupage underneath a table. So we've always got guns under the table.
That's
and the guns sort of
only
inspired
mildly
the story.
concerning.
And it's sort of a bit of it's a bit sad really, because obviously moving up here and the pheasant shoots that happen every year that just make me a bit sad. So it's sort of, the magazine, the guns sort of inspired quite a sort of sad,
different take on it. Yeah, it's wicked.
So
Look, oh, it's amazing.
Again, that's a lovely example of what Liz was talking about before, the way certain papers and fabrics and all sorts of materials can trigger those connections and memories. So that's a really, really lovely example. Jenny, I think you had something to show us as well. Oh, look, beautiful robin.
No, it's a chaffinch.
Chaffinch, yes, I can see that now.
But it could be a robin as well.
No, I can see you've got his head in there.
It's a bit rough, but never mind. No, it's good. I enjoyed it. Super.
Good. Well, that's a big part of it. Oh. Elaine, your camera doesn't want to show us the bird. We're just getting fuzzy bird. There we go.
He's a lovely big bird.
Oh, yes.
that's
There we
lovely.
go. That's it.
Oh,
Wow,
lovely beak. Lovely
Gorgeous
beak.
mark making on there.
But I used the ink, so it's kind of started to lift the collage paper a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. You might have to try another. You know, it's this little process of sort of learning and figuring it out, isn't it? And what you can get away with.
Yeah.
It is. It's all experimentation, and the more you do, the more you'll figure out what works for you. Lorraine, have you got an example to show us?
So,
I love the tree sparrow. Sorry, we
You're
can't
on mute,
hear you.
love
You're
it.
on mute.
That's lovely.
And is
Sorry,
that
yes.
Lovely.
Tree sparrow, and then it's a teal.
A teal. A nice
Yeah,
little rare
beautiful.
one.
So yeah, depending
We
which
haven't
way
had
you
a
want to
duck.
go.
We haven't had a duck so far.
I really
they're
enjoyed
great.
that. I really
Good.
enjoyed that. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Excellent. Has anyone else got one they'd like to?
Nothing a bit more.
Oh, that's great. And we've even got a bird in there. Look at that.
You did a bird in the end. Well done.
Yeah, you just sort of.
It's
Sitting on
nice the way they're starting to kind of talk to each other as well as you add those extra bits in. One of the things I like about working in a sketchbook is I tend to go back and forth, and sometimes you get really interesting connections between things where you've got things on random pages. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's just weird, but sometimes it works well.
Do you want me to put the vid on for the last?
Yeah, I think if you would like a little nosy around my studio, I think I even tidied it for the video, so it doesn't look like that now. But you can have a little look at the chaos in which I work.
Right. Let me just. So it's the studio tour one, isn't it?
Yeah. I think sort of one of the things that I wanted, one of the reasons I did the studio tour is once you can see where I work, but also you don't need a big fancy space. You can literally work anywhere. So I'm lucky to have a whole room dedicated to my work, but you don't need all that space. Welcome to my studio. So we're heading in now, and on my door I have a wreath made of cotton reels. So as you can see, it's very, very full. And these are my two world's worst craft and art assistants, Whiskey, the fluffy one, and Roxy, the not so fluffy one. And they love to come in the studio and help. They're, of course, a complete hindrance, but I'm very fond of them, so we let them off. So as we come into the room, you can see it's quite nice and bright, although it's quite a dull day. And I look out over the sea, although you can't really see today because it's a bit wet and miserable, but you can see the sea from here. So I have my desk set up in the window because I think it's the most light space, and it's important to have good light when you're working, and also because I like to have a little look out and a daydream as I'm working too. So my desk is also very full. I've got my collection of pens here. There's always baskets and bowls full of bits and pieces that I'm working on. I've got a good desk lamp, which is really important, particularly in the winter months, because it's good to have a bit of extra light. My CD player, so I can put some music on as I'm working. And on the windowsill, I've got lots of my treasures. I'm going to show you these in a separate video, but here's just a little sneak peek, as it were. And I really like these clear plastic drawers because they make it really easy to see what I've got. But there's all sorts of pots of things and stuff, more things and stuff there. And as we spin round the room, it's going to take a step back. So there's the window, so you can orientate yourself. I've got a pin board that's covered in postcards and things that I found interesting over the years. And it's quite thick now. I kind of layer things up. And it also has things like little samples on, buttons that I'm particularly attracted to, things that people have given me, all sorts of things. And there's some little samples up there too. And as we go round, you can see I've then got another little storage unit with yet more stuff on, and lots of drawers full of little bits and pieces. And then my notice board, and this is kind of my current notice board. So this is where sketches and ideas that are sort of current to my work at the moment tend to go. So I've been playing around with Inktense pastel sticks. So I've got some sketches up of those, some little collages, notes to myself of things that I've watched, things that I've taken out of magazines, that kind of thing. And then I've got another storage unit, which is full of bits of work, lots of dried flowers. My work's quite seasonal, so I like to collect things as we go along and try and preserve them and then use them later. So lots of bits and pieces in there. I also have a folksy shop where I sell some of my cards and designs. So my postal guide for letters and parcels gets quite a lot of use. Got another inspiration thing here. So it's got plastic pockets, and again, it's full of postcards and bits and pieces. And if I just close the door over, the back of the door is covered in bags, which are really useful for when I do workshops and things. Carrying on round, we have Mabel the mannequin, because as well as being my studio, this room doubles as my hobby room, and I do a lot of dressmaking. So Mabel the mannequin is very useful for that. When we moved in, the people before us left this big wardrobe here, but it's quite a useful storage cupboard. And on the front of it, I've got my calendar and my to-do list with all my dates and things that I'm doing that week, and my ironing board hanging up. And I'm going to give you a very quick peek in here, but it's really quite terrifying. So more stuff in there, 2 sets of drawers and all sorts of bits and pieces. So most of my printmaking and felt making stuff is in there. I think, like a lot of creative people, I like to do lots of different things. So that means that I need lots of different bits of equipment and things.
So moving round from the cupboard, we get to my sewing corner, and this is where my machines are set up. So this is my main sewing machine, and it was my granny's, and it's over 60 years old. It's about 65 years old, but touch wood, still going strong. And I use this for free machine embroidery. So not normal back and forth sewing, but like drawing with your sewing machine. And I really like this little corner. It's in a little cozy alcove. I'm just trying not to step on a cat. And you can see I've got lots of threads and things arranged next to it so that I've got them ready to hand. And then on top, lots of bits and pieces, things that I've made, things that I've collected. I think it's really good to have lots of things up to inspire you, which leads nicely on to the gallery wall. I hope my weird camera work isn't making you feel too queasy. So next to the sewing room, I have my gallery wall, and this is full of work that either I've done, people have done for me, things that I've bought, all sorts of things. And I really like coming in and just looking at this wall. It makes me feel quite inspired. And one of the things that I want to show is this is one of my older pieces of work. It's called Onwards. And this was a really important piece of work for me because it was one of those first pieces where I really thought, oh yeah, maybe I can do this. So I like that piece. I've had offers to buy it, but it's one of the few that I wouldn't want to sell. So I've also got things like postcards that people have sent me or made for me. So that was a collage done by a friend for me, bits of embroidery, another postcard somebody made for me, samples, all sorts of things. As we swing further round, you see more storage. So this is where most of my fabric and bits and pieces live. And as you can see, it's really, really full. So I do often have to move things. I run a lot of workshops. So as well as having stuff for my work, I need stuff for workshops. And I'm a bit of a hoarder as well. So there's a lot of things in here, but it kind of works most of the time. Bit of an effort to keep it clean, but I like the cozy space. And on cozy space, you might have noticed my sofa before. So if I'm doing things like hand embroidery, I'll quite often come and sit here if the cats aren't there and sit and work on that. And I'll move the lamp on the desk over so that I've got good light to work with. But it's a nice, soft, comfortable place to sit. So we're now almost back at my desk, back at the beginning. So that's a very quick tour of my studio and workspace. I think it's really interesting to see where people work. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look round. What I didn't say at the beginning is that this is just a room in our house. It's not a specially rented space or anything like that. I really like having my studio at home. It means I can come in anytime, things always to hand. And because it's got a door, I can shut the door on it. And that is always a bonus. So there's all sorts of bits and pieces here that I'll probably show you in some other videos. But for now, thank you for joining me in my studio and be creative.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That could have been going around my little space that I'm sitting up here in the loft. It's just, it looks really sparse behind me, but I'm just surrounded by a whole heap of stuff that you can't see for all projects. All projects. Beautiful.
You're on mute, Hells.
Oh, I was just going to say it's not for the minimalists.
No. Not at all. That was lovely, Hells. Thank you very much.
I must
Well,
admit,
I've
I've
had
got
a-
a craft set that's ever so messy.
Creative. It's
a good
thoughts
sign.
spilling out.
It's chaos.
Creative chaos. So that's us at about 4 minutes past 8, everybody. So thank you, Helen, for a marvellous session. I love that session. It's lovely how all the things start coming together a wee bit, all the different things. And I think, like you said, it can be applied to anything really that you fancy, that is your subject that you like to explore. So just Do more, do lots, try it out. So thank you for all the
Absolutely.
inspiration, Hels, and all the insights into your practice and your sketchbooks and your space and stuff. That's lovely.
It's been a pleasure. It's lovely to meet you, and I look forward to meeting lots of you at the bridge in a few weeks.
Yes.
So that'll be brilliant. Thank you all so much for a lovely evening.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you.
folks.
Thank
See
you.
you next time. Thanks,
Bye.
guys.